On tonight's show, we're talking 1988 Libertads. Stay tuned.
Your winner by unanimous decision, and still World Heavyweight Champion of the World, the Mexican Libertad! Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Titty Hunter!
The 1988 Libertad is interesting for a couple of reasons. One being, you're seeing here, I'm showing a couple of these coins, and that's because there's multiple varieties out there. There's a double die reverse DDR, a type 1, and there is a double die reverse type 2. And we'll see more details on that when I put them under the scope later in the video. There's actually another variety. It's a missing feathers under wing. It's actually the newest and latest variety designation for any Libertad in the 1 ounce silver mint state / BU series. And I got tired of these antics of, this is basically bad quality control, why these double die reverses exist, why missing feathers under wings exist. They're not that truly rare, and I'll show you the stats to kind of illustrate exactly why, like percentage wise. It's not that rare. It's not a 1955 double die penny. It's simply not. The statistics don't support that. And then that was basically where I drew the line, and I said, I'm getting tired of collecting these contrived varieties, and I'm calling it quits on that. The other reason 1988 is interesting in a sense is, we're going to talk about the mintage. Here is the table that I've shared in multiple videos where I'm ranking the scarcest mintage, starting with the 2019 Antiqued, ranking at number 1 with just 1,000. And we got to scroll all the way down here to get to 1988. Allegedly, 1988 had 1.5 million mintage. That ranks 35 in terms of the rankings of scarcest to least scarcest mintage. So it's close to being at the bottom. It's allegedly not that scarce, but quite interesting. If you look at how many are graded at NGC and PCGS, you have just about 600 at NGC, and we're almost at 500 at PCGS. And for 1.5 million, it kind of doesn't make sense. We touched upon this. We talked about when we were comparing 1986 to 1985. 1986, allegedly 1.7 million out there, but only 1,500 NGC graded and just over 1,000 PCGS graded. And that was a stark contrast from 1985, which is 2 million mintage, not that far off from the 1.7 million, but just look at the number of graded coins. Over 11,000 at NGC and over 2,500 at PCGS. So we're seeing that kind of same contrast with the 1988. Allegedly 1.5 million mintage, and then you only have just over 600 graded at NGC and just under 500 graded at PCGS. When I started collecting Libertads in 2021, 1988 was considered one of the harder ones to get. And there was a story, an anecdote circulating out there as to why it was so hard to find 1988s. And quite frankly, it's been enough years, and I'm just not believing this anecdote anymore, because the one constant in human history is human nature. And I'll tell you why, but I mean, there's a big collector base out there of folks who hoard 1998s, for example, who hoard the 1991 Type 2s, and you know they're doing it because it's human nature to want, somebody's going to show up and want to show off their collection. And there is a hoarder of 1998s. He owns over 100 1 ounce silver mint state 1998s. There's another one out there. He's actively showcasing his massive graded collection of 1998s in high grade to boot. So I mean, the story for 1998 is that 8 is a lucky number with Asians. So 88, even more lucky per se. And the story was that, oh, because 8 is such a lucky number, what happened was a bunch of Asian collectors all decided to buy and hoard these coins, and they're over in Asia. But if we have seen American collectors who have hoarded other key dates and showcased them, at least some of them have showcased them, you would have figured that by now, after all these years, somewhere, somehow, on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, somewhere, some Asian should have popped up by now and just been showing off stacks of 88s. And that's simply not the case. So to me, that anecdote, I don't buy it. So here's that graphic where I'm illustrating everything all in one shot, graphically, instead of just numbers on tables. You got the mintage by year with the black dotted line, and then you have the total NGC graded population with blue bars, and the PCGS total graded population count in red bars. And then the colored lines, those are top grades. And for the years we've covered so far, there's not hardly that many 69s and 70s, what I consider the top grades. Highest grade you can get at these grading companies is 70, and 69 is the second highest. And you know how I already feel about the couple of 69s we've seen for like 1985 and 1986. And I've shown those in the prior videos. So we don't see many of those. But last video we talked about 1987, and 1987 was 500,000 mintage. This dip right here in 1987. And now you have 1988, allegedly 1.5 million in terms of mintage. But look at the bars of total graded population, just as low as 87. And when we see in 1989 as well, just as low in those years. Not a lot of graded coins out there on those. So let's take a look at the NGC Population Report for 1998. So for no type of variety designation, currently right now, real-time stats, NGC updates this usually, I believe it's Tuesdays or Wednesdays of every week. So it's a once a week update that these numbers get updated. If new coins get graded, they get the numbers refresh once a week. So no type of designation on the label, this particular one. There's 522 of them. And the top pop, which is the highest grade for that particular year, is the 68. And there's just 5 of those out there. And I have the 67, that's the next highest grade. There's 45 out there. And then we start seeing we have much higher numbers for 66 and 65. And then we talked about these double die reverses, DDR1. There's 66 of them. So mind you, I talked about one of the central themes of the MS Libertads is that in general, less than 1% of the mintage has been graded. And within less than 1% of that mintage, we've had 522 graded, and over 10% of that number is a double die reverse 1. So, I mean, this is not that rare. If we've graded just over 500 without double die 1 designation, you have 66. This is not that rare. This to me statistically is quite common. And let's look at double die reverse 2. 86 of them. Again, 86 is a number greater than 10% of 522. This is not that rare. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This looks like to me like a money grab from NGC. And I mean, here's the distribution of the grades on those, but still, these are not numismatic rarities. This is bad quality control, and NGC should not be highlighting this in any way. One thing you will see over here on this report, and I don't have the coin, and I don't have it for good measure. It is the 1988 missing feathers on their arm. And when we zoom in on the coins later in this video, I'll show you where that detail would show up, just to give you an idea what. But this is basically in the MS 1 ounce silver Libertad series. There's registries. And we'll go over here we'll go to mine, number 9. This is the with varieties, including varieties registry. And I'm down here, and I'll show you I do not have the coin. And here it is, 1988 missing feathers on their arm. This is basically the latest variety that NGC has kind of now added, and people can start getting that attribution to their coins by paying that variety plus fee. That basically was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I said, I've had it with these varieties, these contrived varieties. I truly believe in something like a 1991 small ontha. That's a legit variety. It's legitly meant to be minted that way. These things were not meant to be minted that way, and even so, even if it was a numismatic rarity, it's not a rarity. The quality control is so bad that it's so common. It has no business getting these types of attributions. But it is what it is. So now we're zooming in on each of the coins, and this is the regular one without variety attribution. But not having a variety attribution doesn't necessarily mean it's not a quote-unquote variety, because when you want a variety attribution, you have to pay extra money. It's like $18 or $19 extra on top of the standard grading fee just to get that designation for the coin on the label. And as you can imagine, NGC is a business. They're in there to make profit, and there is the inherent bias to generate more and more variety designations. So let's just take a look at the standard coin elements. We always take a look at, we could look at those borders. Some might say there's some slight double dyeing there on the bottom of those borders. Let's take a look at the number 1. Slight shadowing there, but no real double dye there on the number 1. On ontha, no real, someone could say the bottom of that Z is, but that's ever so slightly. That's almost non-existent. Let's go to the bottom here. There, the bottom of the 1, you could sit. So this is no designation. This is the regular one you're seeing in the picture over picture there on the bottom, my MS 67 1988. And you're seeing some, what you would say is double dye there on the bottom of the 1. Some going on there with the 9. Tiny bit with the 8. Let's move over to Mexico. The bottom there, the letter M. And the E. The left bottom of the X. A little bit on the right, but this is just bad quality control. This isn't truly, this is machine double dyeing. And the lay, right there on the bottom of the L, the bottom of the E, the 999 purity, little bit on that first 9, slightly on the second. So there's double dyeing on the one without the designation. When we come over to the right side, look at plata pura, and nothing as pronounced here. So this is my MS67 without any type of variety designation. We are now looking at the double dye reverse number 1. And mind you, when I first heard of these varieties, I asked what normal people would ask. Oh, what's the difference of this double dye 1 and 2? And I've already magnified, and quite honestly, I can't answer that for you, me zooming in on these coins. The alleged narrative is that, oh, the double dye is taking place in different locations. But funny enough, when I went over the 1982 coins in the 1982 video, I talked about how NGC had a double dye reverse number 2 for the 1982. And now they have abandoned that double dye reverse number 2. They took it away from the registry, and they're no longer providing that designation. So, I mean, why did they even provide it to begin with? Aside that frustration, let's take a look at this coin. Let's see what interesting double die we see here. Going through UNTA. Let's go down to 19. Okay, the bottom of the 1 there again. A little bit there on the 9. Some on the 8, but just a little bit, yeah. Again, but this is very similar to my my non-variety MS67. This is my double die reverse type 1 MS66. And we're seeing a lot of similarities. A lot of similarities to the one without the attribution. Same thing here, lay 999. And those 2 of those 9s. Let's take a look at the border here on this side. No double dying really on that border. And here is plata. And here is pura. So I mean, this is double die reverse 1. There's some double dying, bad quality control, machine double dying. And let's see how that compares to number 2. And now we're zoomed in on double die reverse number 2. This being the reverse side. Take a quick look at the borders here. No real, a little, just super slight there. This is the number 1. Let's take a look at UNTA. Let's go down to 19. Okay, so the bottom of the 1, the bottom of the 9, not so much. Little bit there on the center of the 8 in the circles, interior circles. Mexico, not the bottom of the letters really standing out, more there in the interior. So the last time around we were seeing the bottom of the letters had the double die. That C there is on the inside. Lei does have on the bottom. There's some there on the bottom. A little bit there in the E on the bottom and the inside curve. The 9, more on the insides. So it looks like, if I had to guess, because obviously NGC doesn't have any document showing, I would have to say it's the interior curvature of the coin elements and not their exteriors that are having the double die. That's my guess. You just saw it. I just walked you through it. That's the only thing that makes any type of sense as a narrative. Because otherwise, I don't know what else to say. Last but not least, I did mention I don't own the coin, the missing feathers underarm, but I did want to show you, kind of indicate on the coin, in case you have a raw one and you're just wondering what on earth are they talking about. I'm going to show you right now. So this is the reverse. I'm still working with the double die reverse too, but it could be any. And you basically go down the angel and you want to look, you facing the angel to the right of the angel's torso. And you see that's her armpit, that's her arm, us looking at the right, and which is the actual angel's left side. But right there, you could see how the feathers of the wings, there's feathers under there. Basically, the missing feathers on their arm, there is nothing there. Basically, those die elements somehow did not get struck, and it's completely blank right there. That's the spot you want to look at. That's basically what missing feathers on their arm is. So this video would not be complete without talking about pricing. I know a lot of you have shown interest in current pricing analysis, so let's get to it. I went on eBay. I took a look at, in my query box, search box, I put 1988 Silver Libertad, And these are basically your active auctions, either active in terms of bidding ending on a certain time, or buy it now, meaning you can right then click buy it now if you're signed in and buy it for that specific price. So these kind of are like the prices going on right now. But if you want to get an idea for actual sales that have taken place for 1988 Silver Libertads, here on the left panel, you have all your filters. If you're on desktop, you want to click on the sold items, and that's going to give us more information on actual transactions that have taken place. So very interesting on top, something you'll see in eBay. This is important to know. I'm going to show you a little trick on that. This 1988, it looked like it was a buy it now with a best offer option. Best offer basically means you can click in there and provide an offer, some number, some amount that you're willing to offer, and it's a binding contract. Nowadays, when you put in that offer, you choose the payment selection, because if then the seller does accept it, it happens. So here's the first thing. And eBay doesn't show you what the best offer price was. So it looks like the buy it now price was $249, but a best offer was selected. Let's find out what that actual best offer is. There's a website called 130point.com, and I already did the search, but basically it brings you to a search. You search 1988 Libertad, you make sure the sold items filter is turned on, and we see right here that auction. It was the $249 buy it now price, and the best offer of $200 was accepted. So there it is. We know it happened at $200. Keep your eyes peeled out. This is something I've talked about before. It's worth mentioning again and again. This just happened July 6th. That is today. Sometimes shenanigans get played on eBay. People have shill bidders, which is essentially somebody they know they collude with, and they tell them, hey, keep bidding up the item. I need to get it to like a certain price. Why I tell you pay attention to, in particular, for example, this one and this one, the buy it now that a best offer was taken, likely there's no shenanigans taking place. But this one that sold at $157, it might be questionable. And what I tell you is, if a shill bid took place, the eBay system will automatically bring the item to the comp. But typically what happens in a shill bidding effort, if that friend of the seller ends up winning, the seller naturally will say, hey, I'm going to cancel the item. I don't want you buying it. I'm trying to sell it to somebody, but thanks for helping me bid it up. But until that cancellation takes place, it's going to be on these comps. So keep your eyes peeled out on the comps that happened on the most recent day, because it's going to take like 24 hours or so for the example of a shill bid that needs to get canceled. It's going to sit there. But once you start getting here, this took place on July 4th, July 3rd. These are more set in stone. These really did happen. And then you kind of have an idea of these are the prices that the 1988 Silver Libertad has gone for. Either raw, which is ungraded. It looks like a lot of them went ungraded. And then you have a graded, a double die reverse type 2 MS64 sold for $249.95. So that's in terms of pricing how things look like. So thanks for tuning in to another video, and 1989 will be coming up soon.